Welcome to I See You, a podcast where we know that human connection restores mental health and resilience. I'm your host, Julie De Jesus, and I see you. Let's be friends. Welcome to another episode of the I See You podcast, where we have conversations and tell stories all about how human connection restores mental health and resilience and can create lives that we never thought we could have. Today, I'm super excited to have my friend Kirk here on the podcast. Kirk, welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
So there's a lot of fun things about you that we're going to learn. I have really valued our friendship and as I've been able to coach you, but just gives a snapshot about you for people who don't know anything about you.
Okay. Yeah, great. I'm married. I have 3 children, and my oldest two, between the two of them, I have 7 grandchildren. So they're like very energetic and keep me on my toes. And just growing up, something about me just growing up, I'm the oldest of 11 children. So big family.
I didn't know that. You're the oldest of 11 kids?
Yes.
Holy cow.
So
have you done much research on like birth order and how that can play into like how you see the world and stuff?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And being the oldest, that you might see some of those tendencies come up in some of the things I say.
So that's a conversation we'll need to have. That's interesting. I don't know if you told me that before, but I actually don't remember that you're the oldest of 11 kids. Wow. Will you tell us just kind of a story that we've talked about of how others have seen you, how that human connection piece has helped improve your mental health and resilience?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you do. I love your podcast, Julia. I see you, and it really fits in a lot with what I'm doing. Also, I think kind of from the male perspective and what you're doing from the female perspective. My big breakthrough was just a couple of years ago, actually. And I was having a conversation with my friend Justin, and he said to me just the general things, hey, how's it going? And I just looked at him, and in that moment, I just felt like being totally authentic and real. So I said, I'm just waiting to die. And he looked at me, kind of shocked, because, normally it's like, nice, I'm doing fine,
He's like, I didn't want to know.
He's like, I didn't ask that question, but no, I mean, I was being genuinely serious with him in that I would just the drudgery of life, and everything just kind of beat me down. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not suicidal or anything, but I'm just wanting to finish out this life and be done and move on to the next thing. But the cool thing about it was that he wasn't judgmental or anything at that point. When you talk about I see you, at that moment, he's like, okay, here's somebody who I need to really see. So he just kind of said, okay. He's like, I have this seminar I want you to go to with me. He's like, I'll take care of the cost. You just show up.
Oh, I didn't realize that. He paid for it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So he paid for that initial seminar for me to go to. And that kind of really kickstarted this journey that I've been on for the last couple of years.
That's amazing. Yeah. I remember when we first talked and you told me that story of just waiting to die. I think more people than we realize have moments like that. For me, like my story, and I know yours as well, in the first episode of the entire podcast, season 1, I talk about my story and being very clinically depressed and anxious and struggling with suicide ideations and different things. And that's a really high stakes situation. There is also another level, though, I think, of not being suicidal, but just life is just monotonous and it's day after day and kind of good with when it ends. It's fine. And that just this idea of hope that maybe there is a different way to live. And what did you get from the retreat? Because that was a big transitioning moment for you.
It was, yeah. So it started with one day or a day and a half of a seminar that just sparked my interest just enough to where I took the next step to go on to this retreat, which was like this very intensive procedures and things like that. That was over 3 days. And then they took a break for like a month. And then you went back and did the part 2 for 3 more days.
Interesting.
But it made me realize that I have been wearing masks my whole life. And these masks just were getting heavy. And that's what really was kind of depressing me down and putting me down. And they're just the masks, we all wear them. You wear them at work. You got to be the people pleaser, maybe. You're the funny guy at work or whatever. It's at home. I've got to be the big, strong, tough dad or whatever it is. But we just wear these masks of what we think people expect of us. And I think that was the biggest thing that I took from that retreat was the masks, being authentic, and just being who I am. And the other thing was just love, just having love. It really taught me anyway to open myself up to being loved and to love people. So that was the two biggest things I took out of that. And it was amazing. It was just amazing.
I'm really curious, because those are some powerful lessons. Can you just throw at me, what are a couple of the activities they had you do? Or even just ideas of like, was it repetition phrasing? Was it meditation? Just a few. What are some things you did on that retreat to have such a transformation?
Yeah, I mean, they're procedures. If I try to explain them, it doesn't have the same effect
For sure. Yeah.
of it. But you just really confront why do we feel a certain way? Really kind of get in a face to face with somebody and just say, when did I learn this thought process? Or when was it that I came to the conclusion that this is how this certain thing should be? And so you kind of are going back to childhood and the way your parents were and some.
Getting really mindful about the neural pathways in your head, it sounds like.
Yes, I love what you say, mindful, because that was
Yeah.
times in there. It's just, being that mindful. And then there's really kind of confronting yourself and trying, throwing down who your authentic self is. And there, I can tell one thing that we did that just, it shocked me and surprised me. And at first I was like, no, that's not real. I mean, that's not me at all. But we were in this group and these people hadn't known me for very long at all. But I would stand and face each of these people in this group and they would look at me and they would just based off of knowing me for a couple hours. And they were saying some things about me like, you're arrogant, you use humor to deflect and, you are really egotistical and these things. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm a nice guy, But I went home that evening and I sat with it and really, faced it and said, oh, you know what? I can see that. I can see that in me. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's fascinating.
It was really.
That's awesome. There's obviously human connection piece in there. I mean, you just talked about being face to face with people. How did human connection play a role in this process of improving your mental health and your ability to be resilient and live a much better life?
Well, I love that question. First of all, I think that's so great.
Thanks.
But yeah, this connection, I had to learn how to connect with my true authentic self and be me, first. And then in connecting with others, that way I'm presenting me, who I really am to people, because I always want to just be liked. I mean, who doesn't want to be liked,
I really want to be like,
And growing up in high school, my parents weren't the rich ones. And so I wasn't like the rich popular. I was into sports, but I wasn't really great at it. So, I wasn't really the jock kid and just kind of a nerd. And so, when you're kind of on those fringes, you just want to be liked. And so I was always trying to do things to be liked. But once I learned who I was, then I could really talk to people authentically. And can I show you just one thing that I learned?
I will allow it. I will allow it. Yes.
Thank you. So this is something that came from that retreat and being authentic. And so
I'd want to be like, jokes on all the listeners. It was a clown training seminar.
Yeah. All right. Where's the nose? But no, I started to wear this and my wife, I remember when I was wearing it one time and she just looked at me. How is this being authentic? A very genuine question.
So did you do drugs on that trade or?
But I had to sit back for a minute and actually think about that and ponder about that for a moment and say, is this really me being authentic or am I using this to hide something? But I came to realize that when I wear this, and I wear this out in public, I'll wear this out to eat and things. And when I do this, and see, I can see the smile on your face right now, people smile at it and they look at me and they smile and they can't help but smile. And I love bringing smiles and joy to people. And so people just smile and they just like, my goodness, if this guy will wear this out in public, he's got to feel pretty good about himself. He's got to be in tune with who he is.
It's a masculine man right there.
And so then people will actually have authentic conversations with me. That's the most fascinating thing. Yeah.
And I bet you didn't see that when you first started doing it.
Did not.
You didn't think this will be the outcome is people actually be more vulnerable and authentic with me. if I just wear a red clown wig? Like,
Oh,
what?
I did not see that coming at all. But it's so interesting because people are like, all right, if he's willing to be that, then I can be myself and have and so, yeah, I've had some great conversations with people
Wow.
wearing the wig.
What an interesting way to connect with other humans, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
like the sky's the limit. It opens all the possibilities.
Yeah.
In our world today, do you ever feel like real, authentic human connection is becoming less of a certainty and more of an anomaly? Well, good news. It doesn't have to be that way. I'm Julie De Jesus. I'm a keynote speaker, an author, and a corporate trainer. I speak all over the country about how to utilize human connection to improve mental health, resilience, and even work performance. If you know a group looking for a speaker, you can contact me at julie-dejesus.com.
If there's someone listening that's feeling not connected, let's just go straight to this feeling like I'm just kind of waiting around to die, like just kind of, or just unsatisfied and not connected with the people in the world around them. What's one thing they could do today? Sometimes it's hard to do a lot at once and it feels overwhelming. Change your life. Just eat right and exercise and meditate and, find a job you love. And sometimes it's like that list alone can be like, never mind, I'm good. What's just one thing to improve the level of being able to connect with others and to build our resilience in life?
Yeah, I love that because you used to be that person.
Yeah.
To where you would hear somebody say, this will help, and so you're like, you write that down, you make your list, and you write it down, and then you hear somebody else say something, you write another thing, and then you write another thing, and pretty soon you have this list that's a mile long.
And if you can just do all these things perfect, you're good. And you're like, holy.
Yeah, this is all those things.
But what about like real life and needing to be flexible?
And for people like me who grew up kind of a perfectionist, and that's where that firstborn of 11 kids thing kind of play. I felt like I always had to be perfect at everything. And so, you get a big long list like that and you're like falling off a cliff because you're like, oh, there's no way I can do all those things perfectly. So yeah, great question. What's one thing that someone can do? So I feel like the first thing is, get right with yourself. Find out who you are in here. And so one thing that's been so great for me is just write down the statement, I am, and then fill in the blank. And I do that. I write in my gratitude journal. I brought it here with me here, so here's my journal. In my gratitude journal, I write in that every day. And everything is, I am grateful for this, or I am this. And at the very end of it, my last statement of my session there with my journal is, I am a courageous and authentic son of God. And that's what I have determined. That's who I am. In my heart, that's who I am. So figuring that out will just bring out the authentic you. Because, man, I tell you, it is so much easier getting through life when you're just authentic.
Figuring out who you are, I can feel vague. What does that look like?
Yeah, good question. That's a great question. And it can be difficult at first when you're starting, it's like, who am I? I mean, for the longest time, like I said, I've been wearing masks my whole life. So I had no idea who I was. So yeah, I had to sit with myself for a little while and do, as you mentioned earlier, some meditation on that. And what makes me happy? What makes the joy in life? What gives me purpose?
And maybe even looking back at memories of when did I feel like I mattered? When did I feel connected? What are patterns there? I know I've done that for myself. Reminds me of Runaway Bride. Have you ever seen Runaway Bride? And she doesn't know what kind of eggs she likes. And she's like trying all the different kinds of eggs. Just little, maybe some people could see that as insignificant, but I think even little things like that can help us hone into like, what do I like? What do I want? What makes me feel alive? What makes me hurt?
And if it's difficult at first, maybe you start with the gratitude journal like I did, and just write down.
What am I grateful for?
Just start writing now. I am grateful for, and just write out 10 things every day. Because then that kind of like focuses in, what things you are, and you kind of start to like in on that. I love the story. I don't know, we have time for just a quick story.
Yeah, only because you're wearing a red wig though.
Corrie ten Boom. Do you know?
No.
So Corrie ten Boom and her sister Betsy, they lived in the Netherlands during World War II, and they were hiding Jews from the Nazis, and they got caught, and they got put in a concentration camp. And so obviously, everyone knows that German concentration camps in World War II are horrible places. So they were in the barracks, just packed in with other women in the barracks, and their barracks were infested with fleas. And so not only was it horrible, but now they like fleas, pitching fleas and everything. And Corey was just upset. She was mad. She was mad at God for, the situation they were in and all this stuff. But her sister Betsy insisted that they be grateful for their circumstances and even for the fleas. And Corey's just like, are you kidding? You be grateful?
That would have been me.
And what are you talking about, Betsy? Kind of a thing. Well, when it came to it, they started to realize that the guards wouldn't come in the barracks because of the fleas. So they were able to read their Bible that they'd smuggled in. They were able to have little get-togethers and pray together and do all these things that they wanted to do because of the very thing that they hated, which was the fleas. So sitting down and writing out gratitudes, you can write things out and be grateful for certain things. And some things you may think, oh, I'm not grateful for that. But then it turns out, oh, that thing was a good blessing in my life. I can be grateful for that.
I love that story. I've never heard that. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm going to put in the show notes. You do have a website where people can find you.
Yeah.
The podcast is called I See You because that was a phrase that was really impactful for me at a really low point in my life. Someone gave me a stainless steel bracelet or cuff that said I see you, and that's now something that's become somewhat of a thing. So I know I've had different mantras like that meant something to me. Do you have any mantras? I mean, you kind of just said it's literally your tip. You're like, well, every day I say I, but do you have any other mantras or phrases that have become meaningful to you that you repeat to yourself that help you stay connected with others and your resilience to live a life where you don't just wake up waiting to die every day?
Yeah. I'm going to take this off so, people know I'm being serious.
I'll take you seriously now.
I am serious. But yeah, there's a couple of things that really have helped me in little things that I say to myself. One is what I mentioned, that I am a courageous and authentic son of God. That tells me, hey, I'm courageous to do hard things. I can do hard things. I can step up. No matter what, if it might make me look foolish, it's okay. I can be courageous about that. And I can be authentic. I can be real with people, even though, again, sometimes if you're real with people, if you're going to be authentic, it might be embarrassing sometimes. It might be awkward, when you have to be authentic and just say, hey, look, I made a mistake. I messed up and I'm sorry, but I really screwed this up, And so it can be awkward. But when you're true to yourself and you're true to others too, and then being a son of God, I mean, that just grounds me and lets me know that this life is a temporary thing and there's someone that's above all things and knows all things. And I can get embroiled in little things, this perfectionism, trying to do everything perfect and do everything right and be everything to everybody. I can get really caught up in that sometimes. And I just have to step back and just say, all right, I don't have to do all that. And there's somebody else that's perfect and run all up things. So I go back to that statement. And then I always go to, when you live with connection, you live with purpose. And connections with yourself, connections with other people, and just being authentic with other people and really getting to know them. I wouldn't be here today without my friend Justin, who at that moment was like, I need to connect with Kirk and I need to hear what he's saying, because that was a strange statement to say, I'm just waiting to die. So I need to connect and find out what's going on and help out if I can. So that kind of human connection, we all need it. We all crave it. And that's just one of those things. I mean, Brene Brown, I don't know, her author research.
I mean, a little.
Yeah.
It's not like her book changed my life. My therapist handed it to me and was like, you know what you need is the gifts of imperfection. And it was, yeah.
Isn't she amazing?
Yeah, she's done some really fascinating work. It makes me sad that I feel like her presence has almost become a little bit pop culture. That almost, I feel like people are kind of sick of hearing about her. I'm like, but she's right.
She's right.
She speaks truth.
And she does so much research that she backs it up.
Yep.
And she says that we are cognitively and psychologically hardwired for connection.
Yep.
And so it's weird in this world we live in where we seem to be so connected with the internet and all this stuff, and yet we're more disconnected than ever before.
Right.
Human to human kind of connection.
And that's why we do this, right? That's why we do this. This is reality. This is real life and real conversations. And we're all a lot more similar than we think. None of us are alone and special to not needing other people. It's not real. There's so many conversations around introverts, extroverts, and And I think there's truth there for sure, but everybody needs somebody. We don't thrive alone. Never have. It's really overrated. Kirk, thank you for being on the podcast today and bring your cute little red wig. I appreciate it. Means a lot.
Well, thank you for having me. I loved being here with you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of ICU, and we will see you next time.
Okay, let's be real. Sometimes what I think we need to restore our mental health more than anything else is just a break, which is why I think I need a vacation. And so do you. Join me and my special guest, Tony Overbay, on the first ICU Living Cruise, the mental health cruise of a lifetime. Check out and make sure you grab those early bird tickets at julie-dejesus.com/cruise. And guess what? You don't even need a babysitter. Kids set sail free. julie-dejesus.com/cruise.